What's going on, guys? This is Saturday Afternoon Wrestling. It's still an interesting time to be talking about wrestling online. There's so much stuff going on. I have a nice list of things to hit today, some big headlines, kind of all over the place too. Next weekend, obviously, we have AEW Forbidden Door, which we'll talk a little bit about here today too. More on that though next week with predictions and everything. I think since it's going to be a Sunday show, I will do predictions for that one. I've been trying to get in the habit of doing more like post shows almost, kind of recapping things rather than predicting them. But with this card, it feels like they've really put something crazy together. It's not quite as, like, Forbidden Door-y as it has been in previous years. Like, it feels like the crossover isn't quite there as much. So I'll be interested to see if anything gets added the rest of this week to kind of help that feeling. But overall, it looks like it's going to be a great card. So we have that next week, but tons of stuff to get to today. And I don't really know, like, there's so many things that feel like the big thing. But I think the only place to start is with Naomi. Last week, she was pulled from a match on Monday Night Raw. They did not give much information outside of that. Apparently, it's like a closely guarded, no one knows type of secret. And then late last week, WWE announced that Naomi would be on this week's episode of Raw to provide an update. So now all of the speculation is running rampant that maybe she's got an injury that wasn't disclosed. There's popular rumors that maybe she's finally pregnant after years of trying with Jimmy Uso. The reaction and the memes have been incredible. All of the, like, who's going to take the title off of Naomi memes. And I think it's Rhea, it's Stephanie Vaquer, and it's Jimmy Uso. It's great. I've been loving that, and honestly, knowing how long that they've tried and all the difficulties and things they've had, what a interesting thing if it is something like a pregnancy, given how many times they've tried and the heartbreaks that they've had. But having it happen while she's in the middle of this incredible championship run, this Proceed with Caution era, has been such a boost to her character and to her career. Feels like she's really, like, on a hot streak, like, not that we haven't seen before. Like, I would say that this has probably overall been better booked than the, like, Glow era of her character, as far as, like, being actually booked like a competent, equal threat, dangerous level competitor. I think this has been the best booking of her WWE career, honestly. And so to see that, if that has to go on pause for any reason, if she's expecting, then more congratulations to her and to Big Jim and their entire families, because it's something they've wanted so long. But just, I hope that she's okay. I hope it's not like, oh, they found out I have some horrible injury or some horrible problem that needs, like, I hope if it does have to bring this reign to an early end, I hope it is for something positive. Which is a weird thing to say given the nature of, so often with these injuries and dropping titles and these unknown situations. So I'm really curious to see what they're going to do, what the plan is, what's going on with her. I hope we get more of an update. They had her and Jimmy on Stephanie McMahon's podcast last week, and I thought we were going to get news there. I know it was a pre-taped thing, but I thought that it was going to be, like, there would be something as a part of that, and maybe that's why they held her out of Raw last week. But no such luck, so we're going to see. But that's absolutely, I think, to me, the most interesting thing, because the women's scene on Raw, on SmackDown, on NXT, across WWE has been the strongest division. I would say it's probably the women's divisions on all of those shows, and then the SmackDown Tag Team division have been the divisions carrying the shows so often. And someone like Naomi, she had the shock cash-in where she cashed in the middle of Io Sky and Rhea Ripley, not on Jade Cargill or on SmackDown like people had expected. And it felt like it was a real shot in the arm to the roster. And we were going to get her and Stephanie Vaquer in Paris. And I just don't know. I hope that this doesn't lead to the same holding pattern of the same, like, Rhea and Io, and, obviously Stephanie has the guaranteed match, but I just want to see new faces get those opportunities. And it felt like Naomi was kind of going to be a conduit for some of these fresh matchups, which I think is something that's being lost in any time that she's forced to miss. Also in the women's division, we got news that WWE is apparently targeting an early 2026 return for Liv Morgan from her shoulder injury and surgery. My guess would be the Women's Royal Rumble at the end of January 2026, which is such a long time to not have her involved in any capacity with anything. And when I hear that, it makes me think that all this Judgment Day stuff is going to just continue to get drawn out until then. Like, there's no pivot. happening here. It's gonna run the way it's gonna run because that's what they had planned, is kind of what it feels like. But just what a loss, again, for this Raw women's division, not having Liv Morgan, who I think is kind of like one of the pillars of that women's division. She's just such a consistent, strong performer. She would really like anchor a lot of those women's segments before she got hurt. So it's disappointing to see her miss such extended time. And I hope that it doesn't hold up everything else, because I think a lot of the people in Judgment Day could be doing really cool things, whether they were doing it with Judgment Day or their own stuff. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen with that. I hope that she's not out all the way till the Royal Rumble, but if it is 2026 that they're already talking about looking at, then you have to imagine they're just going to wait and do the Royal Rumble return. The only question really would be if they do the vignettes, the like Charlotte Flair, I'm going to be back at the Rumble vignettes, or let her truly be a surprise. Like, it would be, I would imagine in a perfect world fantasy booking, it would be Raquel and Roxanne cleaning house, and then Liv Morgan's music hits and it's her, and you get that awkward moment where it's her coming back to confront the two of them or something. Like, I don't know. Is that moment worth holding on to this Judgment Day storyline for 6 more months? I don't work in WWE Creative. That's up for them to decide. But just a bummer again. Just another devastating loss. It's not like she's just missing, but the update is definitely more than I expected. I kind of thought maybe before the end of the year she might be back, but disappointing to see for sure. And then we also have a little bit more clarity, kind of, in the Karrion Kross Scarlett contract saga. He did an interview with Ariel Helwani where he kind of talked about getting a contract offer from WWE, and they gave him like 24 hours to decide. He didn't sign it, so the offer was rescinded. And that's the story they're going with. I have no idea if this is all storyline, if this is all a work. There's reports that he's charging huge fees to do conventions and signings and things, and booking fees. So that's kind of playing into this whole it's a work type thing where, they want him to get out and kind of keep his name hot and then make a shocking return to WWE. Kind of the popular theory when it comes to Kross right now. I don't know though. I kind of think that this is such a playing with fire type of thing. Like, I don't know, because like on the Monday after Kross's contract expired, there was this whole online movement that was like, we're going to chant "We want Kross" and hijack the show, and they're going to not be able to ignore us. And then Raw came and went, and there was like nothing. It was so quiet. And then there was a little bit more this last Friday on SmackDown, but if they thought it was going to be like an R-Truth type movement or a Daniel Bryan yes movement type thing, I don't think that that's played out that way quite yet. I will be really interested to see how it's going to start going once these bookings and appearances kind of start coming up. Like, if he starts going to conventions and he's still, got pretty similar look and aesthetic, if he's still wearing the same merch, I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see. They have their pro wrestling tee shops up, so that's going, but that could be anything, that could just be trying to make it look like they're on their own. And it's so funny because this is the type of thing that, like, if the more WWE does this, the weirder it's going to get. And I think I said this a little bit last week, but like, doing this way where everything is going to be called into question, it's going to create for some really weird like moments and opportunities and just awkward exchanges. Like, you think Kross, if he has been let go and this is not a work and he's looking for a new company to sign with, and then all you see all online all day are people saying we're going to chant "We want Kross," and then you watch the show and nothing happens. Like, I wonder what that does to his value signing elsewhere outside of WWE. I mean, there's always the chance that this isn't this is a work. They plan on bringing him back. They see these reactions and they're like, oh, the fans aren't chanting as much as we thought. You know what? Maybe we won't sign him back. Maybe we will pull that contract offer. And it just feels like playing with fire. I think at this point, Kross is good enough at playing the game as far as like promos, social media, putting himself out there, branding himself well, that it won't matter in the long run. But this is the type of thing that could really derail the wrong wrestler if they tried to do something similar, if they tried to pull something off like this. And so I just think that they're getting a little too comfortable with running these types of things. And, you know, you think about the backlash to Seth Rollins' injury apparently being a complete work. Like, they like messed up the timing of Goldberg's retirement match and everything in the name of making people think Seth Rollins was hurt. And apparently people are not happy with that. Like, backstage, some talent, some performers, different producers, people that weren't in the loop probably, because that kind of tends to be how that goes. The people that don't know are the ones that are going to get mad about not knowing. And I think it's interesting. I'm gonna be locked in on these Karrion Kross bookings and social media and see what other interviews he starts doing. I think that's probably a big sign too. Like, next week, if you click here and I have an interview with Karrion Kross, you'll know, okay, they might be for real if he's popping on shows like this. Like, it's not going to happen. It'd be cool, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think we'll see him do those large shows that maybe create just enough speculation on his status without fully committing to one side or the other. And then it's just a waiting game to see if he's going to pop up on Raw and SmackDown, if they're going to send him anywhere. Like, if he goes to TNA, I don't know that's the best look. Like, it's not going to make him look and feel like $1 million. I don't think. I would think people might see it as a demotion if he's revealed to have re-signed with WWE or not. And I don't know. Like I said, it's a mixed bag of things. You're playing with a lot of combustible components here and a lot of variables that need to be figured out. And I'm interested to see. I don't know that the company has shown that they're willing to put that kind of attention and care into Karrion Kross and Scarlett and his storylines to where, like, I would trust them to do this. And that's a large part of it too. Like, if it's just up to Kross and Scarlett to figure this out and get themselves over and let it roll, then you know what? That's one thing. But if they're having to convince WWE people at the same time, like, hey, this is worth it, this is working, this is what we're worth, could be a lot tougher of an uphill battle for them. So I'm really, like I said, I'm really interested to see where they're going to go with this next. But obviously the Ariel Helwani interview was interesting. I'm not a huge fan of his anymore. I think he's kind of lost a lot of the things that had made me like him in the first place. It feels like a lot of the time now he's just kind of going along with whatever the person he's interviewing is saying. There's not a lot of pushback. There's not a lot of, but you know, Kross is an interesting interview. No matter who is interviewing him, I think he's someone that blends the line between what's real and what's a work so well. And so to that end, it's interesting at least to hear him in his own words kind of tell the story. The only problem is you're just kind of left to like analyze every single thing. So if that's your type of thing, I would definitely recommend that interview as well. And then I don't really know how to get into these last few things I have here written down. So I guess I'll start with TNA. It was reported that WWE has first refusal on buying TNA should they decide to sell, and that was by design. And it's interesting because it changes how I view the framework of this TNA WWE working relationship. It feels more like an audition and less like a collaboration, which would explain a little bit why there's top NXT stars holding major TNA belts right now. That makes a little more sense. But the report was that WWE wants to create or turn TNA into the number 2 promotion in the United States, because they think that they can control TNA, they can control the stars and the storylines and the perception and everything. And of course, to do that would be driving AEW out of business. Now, this is all rumor and hearsay, but the rumors are that WWE is looking to counter-program AEW's World's End at the end of the year with the pay-per-view that will have John Cena's last match. There had been thoughts before that it was going to be a Saturday night's main event in Boston in mid-December. And now the report is that WWE is actively trying to move that to the end of the month to go head-to-head against the World's End pay-per-view. And obviously, we don't know a whole lot about WWE's plans for John Cena's retirement tour outside of this next couple weeks. We know that he's probably going to face Brock Lesnar at the pay-per-view scheduled to run opposite of AEW All Out, which is another one of their big shows. That's the only reason you would bring Brock Lesnar back and then just not have him again until right before that pay-per-view, is you want everyone to watch the pay-per-view. And the only reason you would do that is if you think Brock Lesnar is going to bring the type of attention and eyes that would decide to not buy the AEW pay-per-view to instead watch Brock Lesnar and John Cena. and I don't know what level of fan is being swayed from buying one pay-per-view to then just watching something else. Like, if you're already committed to buying an AEW pay-per-view, the chances are you're going to buy the pay-per-view. Like, another promotion having some sort of match or special attraction isn't really going to sway you. And I think it's interesting because it's a bold strategy, because you're bringing attention to all of these AEW shows. Like, I would imagine there's people that hear WWE is booking a show that's the same day as another show, and you'd be like, "Oh, I've never seen that. That's cool. I can watch both, or I can watch this one and then flip over and see what this other one's all about." And it feels like it's just it's playing with fire. It's a weird look from them. Like, obviously there's been so much talk about WWE not seeing AEW as a threat, not viewing them as a threat, not wanting to, give attention to them, basically. And yet, every step of the way, it's felt like they've treated them like a bigger threat than they're letting on, with all of this counter-programming, all of this trying to sign people away from them, all of the negative stuff that came out when Ospreay chose to sign with AEW, and you had Triple H saying, oh, he's running from the grind. You got people running from the grind. They don't want to put in the hard work. They'll just take the easy way out. And it just feels like, obviously there's going to be competition because it's two competing businesses in the same field, so that's always going to happen, but it's such an odd time for WWE to do this. I was listening to something and they were talking about how it should be like, this competition's a good thing for WWE because it pushes them creatively, and how a little bit of healthy competition is not a bad thing. And I would argue that it's not really a competition right now. Like, WWE is in a stasis when it comes to good, creative, and engaging stories. Like, just look at last Friday's SmackDown. It was kind of a mess from start to finish. Like, there was so many, and like, it's complaints that have been coming up over and over again lately for WWE. It's so many like screwy finishes where you have interference or someone cheating or disqualification or a run-in or anything. There's not a lot of 1, 2, 3 matches over. You have them running back the same things over and over. We had another Tiffany Stratton, Jade Cargill, Nia Jax promo. Tiffany Stratton's beaten both of them multiple times, and she's sitting there talking about, you need me to prove to you I'm better than you, I'll prove to you. And it's like, what are we doing? There's so many stars there. There's like 4 or 5 women that I can think of that aren't wrestling. Like Candice LeRae, B-Fab, Nikki Cross. They are just valets for their groups right now. They are not in matches week to week. And Candice LeRae had the biggest bump of SummerSlam weekend, and she's not getting booked regularly on the shows. There's no storyline for the women's tag team titles. There's no story. Julia hasn't had a match in like a month and a half on TV. She won the Women's United States title and has, like, I think defended it once since then, and she won it the same month that Becky Lynch won the Women's Intercontinental title. Becky Lynch has defended that thing, I think, like 5 times, something like that. It's just crazy. It's crazy, the lack of attention and the lack of like original new stories that they're coming up with. There's so many that, how many times has SmackDown started with Solo Sikoa coming out and cutting a promo, and then the match gets made for that night. It's going to be them, the MFT taking on someone, or how many times can they rotate through the same stories over and over? And so I look at the rumors of them wanting to drive AEW out of business. And they're certainly not trying to do it by just outbooking them and out storytelling them. If you watch week to week, it's kind of clear they're like I said, they're in a holding pattern here where they're running so much of the same stuff over and over again, and then they pull out those big names with the hope that star power is going to be enough to drive people away from AEW. Whereas what I would argue people are going to AEW for is the stronger storytelling. That's something that I think is a huge accomplishment of Tony Khan's in recent months, even in like the last year or so, is, you think about how often he would hop on Twitter and be pissed about whatever the report was on WWE or whatever shot they were taking. He was Tony Twitter fingers as far as I was concerned, and he would just always hop on and try to defend the company and himself, and he engaged with it all the time. And then once he finally stopped, and they stopped trying to take those shots and those everything, and they focused on themselves, the stories got way better. Like, everything got way better. And now the reports are that they're in as good a place as they've ever been. in terms of backstage morale and the company and everything. And you look at WWE, it's kind of the opposite. You get all these reports of, oh, people are mad about the Seth Rollins lie. People are mad Brock Lesnar's back. People are mad about, not getting time. People are mad about the lack of time for these matches and these belts. And it just feels like there's a lack of cohesion there that had been there in the early parts of Triple H's reign. And so I see all of that. I think about all of that. And it makes me wonder if the reason WWE wants to drive AEW out of business is money related and is business related. Obviously, Nick Khan and everyone in TKO, their job is to make as much money as possible. And something like AEW existing, where they're paying more for wrestlers, they're helping to drive the contracts up, they're offering maybe some more provisions. I don't know exactly what the breakdown is, but I know WWE in the past had their wrestlers pay for their own hotels, rental cars, flights, and AEW, last I remember, was paying for that stuff. So they're providing that, and that's just all costs that are going up and up and up. And if WWE is in cost-cutting, save money mode, they're going to want to lowball wrestlers and be like, well, we're the only game in town, we're the biggest game in town, so if you want a lucrative career, like if you want to make it successful and make it work in wrestling, you got to be here. And AEW is directly opposing that. And if they're paying more, and if they're keeping the wages competitive, and they're providing people with an alternative, say someone is like, I signed with WWE and I thought it'd be great, and now I'm wrestling the same person for 4 months in a story that's not going anywhere, and I don't know. And there's always going to be the grass is greener on the other side, and you don't know what you have until you've left. There's always going to be those stories of regrets, and maybe I should have stayed, it wasn't what I thought it would be. But it feels to me like WWE is just trying to grind things out away from AEW in the hopes of making things easier on themselves. It's not like they're going to get AEW to stop operating and then be like, now let's really lock in and tell good stories. No, they're going to say people will accept what we give them because we're all they have to choose from. And I think that's kind of like the writing's on the wall with that. When you look at, like I said, how kind of lazily they've been booking the last few months or so of SmackDown and some of these title scenes and pictures. And that, it's a bummer to see, because there is so much talent on that SmackDown roster just waiting and just sitting around. And instead we get kind of the same matchups over and over and over again in a cycle. And there's no building new teams or building new storylines up. Julia kind of came out of nowhere to win the women's U.S. title, and like I said, nowhere to be seen since. They got Kiana James doing most of her talking in segments now, and promo segments now. So it's disappointing. It's disappointing to see that much talent sitting around and waiting to be used, and then also reading that they want to drive the opposition out of business. Like, you should want to drive the opposition out of business with undeniable quality, I would think, rather than just like money and budget and counter programming John Cena and Brock Lesnar and whatever big Goldberg, whatever big names you can think of. It just feels like, it's all style, no substance. It's all sizzle, no steak. And that's kind of a sad way to look at things right now with WWE, because it's hey, we want to get rid of the competition so that we can give you 4 matches of pay-per-view on your ESPN streaming service. Every match is sponsored. There's commercials in between everything, even though it's online streaming. And you know the drill. And I don't know. I'll be watching this. I don't think that there's any chance of that actually really happening. But it's such an interesting thing. It paints both companies in such a different light, I think, to me. And it makes WWE obviously look a little more concerned about AEW's staying power. The specific report that I saw said that they wanted this TV deal to be the last for AEW. And that makes me wonder if they're going to start trying to exploit relationships that like Nick Khan, Ari Emanuel, some of those top TKO heads might have. Like, could you see them going to Warner Brothers and saying, hey, don't renew AEW, instead, sign NXT and we'll give you TNA and we'll do this and this and this, and, all you have to do is just get rid of AEW on Max and you could have NXT on Max. How much better would that be to have WWE on Max? And who knows? Who knows how it's going to go? Obviously, there's plenty of choices when it comes to streaming. We might come to a point where we see AEW is only on, Prime or whatever it's going to be. Maybe Peacock wants to get back in the wrestling game after WWE's gone next year. There's always going to be options, but if they're going to go about trying to drive AEW out of business, it's all going to be business and business back tactics and stuff like that. Like, I don't think it's going to be like a pound for pound, we're going to out creative and out book you. Because at this point, they've kind of shown no interest in that. They are clearly perfectly content to tell the stories that they're telling. I don't see them being pushed into doing anything. So I don't know, just something else to keep an eye on. It's so much speculation and background discussions and trying to look and see the patterns and see what you can do. And kudos to AEW, because their success is playing a large part of it. The fact that they've been so popular, they stuck the landing with the Hangman Adam Page defeating John Moxley, winning the title. They've done well so far. It's great to have the champ on TV wrestling all the time now, whether it's singles matches or, multi-man tag matches. It's good to have the AEW title back on screen, and to have their champion wrestling is a huge selling point for them. Like I said, they've got Forbidden Door coming up next week, which is going to be a huge show, I'm sure. So far, there's nothing counter-programmed to that yet. And then I think that's everything. Oh, I did Triple Mania was Saturday night, and that was a lot of fun. The matches I saw of it. I don't know how I feel about Finn Balor and the Demon Puppet. I kind of feels like, on the one hand, it's like, man, wrestling is so fun when it's just allowed to be so stupid, and you can get Finn Balor with a Demon Puppet squaring off against Mr. Iguana. But at the same time, that's Prince Devitt. That dude should be a world champion. What are we doing? And so I don't know. I look at something like that and I feel so conflicted, because on the one hand, it's fun, it's funny, it's lighthearted, it's a great way to get more eyes on lucha wrestling and AAA. Then in the same night, you can have all of the fans booing the babyface champion because they want Alberto Del Rio back in 2025, which is insane to me. And if there's people that love Brock Lesnar but don't want Alberto Del Rio back, or vice versa, I don't know what to tell you. But I think we as a society have come past the need for either of those guys on TV regularly. I cannot believe the heat that Vikingo was getting as the babyface champion. He was getting big dog Roman Reigns level boos, and there were active Del Rio chants that WWE was muting the volume on for the backstage segments, and just an odd scene. The matches themselves were great though. If there's one thing you can trust with the AAA and Triple Mania and those YouTube events, it's always going to be a high work rate show. Really, really fun main event. Dominic Mysterio is undeniably a huge star. He is going to be a world champion sooner rather than later, and I hope it's in WWE and not just AAA or NXT or anywhere else. That dude is going to be holding some major WWE gold probably sooner rather than later. He's a Royal Rumble or a Money in the Bank winner in the waiting, possibly as soon as next year, if he's going to continue with this trajectory. So watch that if you have not. Other than that, though, pretty good week. Like I said, fortunately, not a whole lot of stuff going on. Some interesting things to talk about, some big things. But other than that, I think that's about it. Forbidden Door next week, so I will come back with some predictions for that show, running through the card, as well as hitting any other interviews, news, anything like that pops up over the next week or so. So thank you so much for hanging out, for watching, for listening. Wherever you listen or watch, it is so appreciated. I hope everyone that is hearing this has had a good weekend and is having a good start to their week so far. Take care, and I will see you next time.